Okay, it's recorder. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Intro to Epidemiology. Okay, let's start. I think it's the wrong slides. Never mind. Okay. Okay, I need to go to Zoom. I need to share screen. I need to share screen 2. Okay, this should be correct. Okay, let's hope it's correct. Okay, today we'll cover two things. One is how do you standardize the data. One way is through direct standardization. The other way is through indirect standardization. And then we talk about disease burden. We have different ways to measure it. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's start. Okay, first question, as always, why do we need to standardize? The answer is there. Okay, but the key thing is that the structure of a population may be different in terms of age, gender, socioeconomic status. So you do not do a standardization, then you're comparing apples to oranges. So for this, you must make sure that whatever you adjust for is inside part of your standard population. Usually what we do is we use age structure and maybe gender. Some of these factors are not easily available, so we don't really use it. So most of the time we talk about the standardized population is in terms of age and sometimes gender if they have more specific gender breakdown. Any questions? Okay, so countries, anyone know what is the median age of Singapore?
Median
Median.
40s.
35.7892.
I don't think so. Mean? Anyone know the mean? Okay, we can find out all this easily. Okay.
What?
It's 40, 41. Okay. That is the, I think it's the mean or median for Singapore. So we are generally not too old. So there are some countries that are younger than us, some countries that are older than us. So US is supposed to be an old country, but there's a lot of immigrants coming in. So therefore they maintain their thing. Vietnam, for example, is a very young country. I think the median age is only 30s, if not wrong, or even early 20s. So depending. So what determines whether the country is young or old? One is the number of birth. Okay, so you have a country with high birth rate, generally higher chance of it to be a younger country, and you have countries where the life expectancy is not too long, then you most likely have a younger population. Yeah, so comparing mortality rates between countries which have older, like for example, comparing Singapore and Vietnam is a bit unfair because one is a younger population, one is an older population. Okay, okay, one formula there. So this is standard direct standardization. Okay, first, what you do is you choose a standard population. Okay, usually you have the WHO or the OECD 2020 population. So once you have decided a standard population, everything you have, you will standardize to this population. So then you calculate the age-specific rates for your population. Then you multiply by that population to the standard population. Then you can create this thing called a standardized rate. So if you're interested is a formula. The age-specific rate in the study population, okay, multiplied by the N, which is the age-specific population in the standard population, divided by the total N, total standard population. So this will give you the standardized rate. So this is called direct standardization. Makes sense, right? Because you're directly standardizing it. Okay. It's still not clear, never mind. Exercise. Okay. It was actually more complicated. I make it easier. Okay. So now you have country A. Okay. Then you have country B. This is per 100,000. Okay. So when I first used ChatGPT to solve this, they can't solve it. So we still have a job. Don't worry. Okay. They miss out this per 100,000. So it's very funny. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So you want to try? Anybody? I only have 3 populations, 0 to 40, 15, 44, 45 plus. In real life, there are more age strata, but then make it simple. Want to try? The 3% was supposed to listen. Okay, you all don't worry, you all ask each ask the question. Whoa. Okay, can. Actually, the next step. Okay. And good point. So first thing is you take the age specific rates. Okay, you have 2 population. A is your population. B is the standard population. Okay, so in this case, we can take it as maybe 2020 population. Okay, so take age specific rates. Okay, so multiply by the standard population. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So here 1 refers to 0 to 14. 2 refers to 15 to 44. And last one is 45 plus. Any question? So age specific rate is 50, right? What is a rate? There must be a denominator. Okay. So the denominator is 100,000. So it's 50 over 100,000 multiplied by the population, which is 15,000. Because this is a standard population. Next one is 70 over 100,000 multiplied by 35,000. And then this one is, we have put this as C, standard population. Last one is 300 over 100,000 multiplied by 50,000. So this is A. Okay, easy, right? Okay, can answer, right? Okay, somebody try B.
152.
Okay, B. Calculate already, so fast. Yes, 40 over 100,000 times 15,000. 60 over 100,000 times 35,000. 250 divided by 100,000 times 50,000. This will give you the numerator. And our denominator, you just add them up. That's the denominator. Why am I counting the answer? It's just an exercise. Okay, now you also will try it. But
So actually, you
here's the answer here.
Oh.
Okay, so step 1. Expected death is the mortality rate on the standard population. So you have 50 per 100,000 in 0 to 14. So assuming that the standard population is 15,000, this is your expected number of death by using this formula. Okay. So you add up the expected death divided by the total population, standard population, and then times 100,000. This is the answer.
Sorry, because
Okay.
fail next one.
Yes.
So like 50 divided by 100,000 times 15,000,
Correct.
70, then each time you get the answer,
Mm.
you add them up.
Yes, because
Then
this
that
is your
is the
expected death.
country A. Then you do the same for country B.
Yes, correct.
Then after that, you compare the total for country A and to
No, you take the total death in A divided by the total standard population which is there. You add this up, 15
Oh.
plus 35, so it's 100,000.
oh
Okay? It is the answer. Okay. Okay, still don't understand, never mind. Step 1. Okay? Okay, suppose someone will lose, but this is step 1, okay? If you want to start, I can give you a slide. Then it's step 1. Okay. Then it's step 2. I'm sorry, I haven't step 2 yet. So step 1, okay, all understand, right? You take your 40 divided by 100,000. Okay, ChatGPT forgot this step. That's why I came out with a huge number. Divided by 100,000. Okay, so I must remind him. Okay, so don't always assume ChatGPT is correct. I always don't assume I'm always correct. Okay, can?
So you're calculating the expected death for each bracket and you just sum them up and get the
Yes. So epidemiology, very simple. Okay, that's why don't be scared. Okay, my friend is scared, don't know why. Okay, next you add up. Very easy, I just add up. Add up the 3 numbers. Okay. After adding up 3 numbers, last step, divide by the population, which is 100,000. Okay, how to get this number?
the world.
1, 2, 3, 4. Column 4, add up. I make it very simple, 100,000. So that's why this is a simple example. Okay, so now you cancel out 182, so it's just 182, 15. You say 152, is it? Okay, very good. So this answer. Okay, if you don't not sure, never mind. You can always go back to the slide. So yes.
1.
Wow. Question already. Slide 1. All the way.
Step 1. Let me
Oh, step 1. Sorry, step 1.
for this table.
Yes.
Hey, well, not this one.
Overshot already. Sorry. Yeah.
The previous.
Okay.
Hey, this one, okay, I understand country A is already more chala than B because every age it's worse off. So it's
Yeah.
straightforward, the A is worse than B,
Yes.
right? 50 greater than 40, 70, 60, 300, 250. Now, the thing is, this, I could argue, where do you come up with the standard population? Because that could bias some results. Let's assume that 15 to 44 is the other way. 60 and 70. And that proportion is very, very big. instead of 35,000, then you can get a different result. So it all depends on the distribution of the standard population.
Yes.
Where do we get this? It's
So,
all population.
For OECD countries, I think they took every country, they sum up get the standard population.
Okay.
Okay, so it's arbitrary how you decide standard population. So in Singapore context, you see a lot of age standardized rates. Usually they use 2020, I think I'm not wrong.
Singapore population.
Singapore, they use 2020. You can
Okay.
check lah. So depend on which year they use lah. But they standardize to a certain population, but they have to tell you what is the standard population. Or unless it's a well understood, like the OECD is 2020. So very, very good point. So your standard population is very important. So, but the thing is that even if the standard population is biased, everything is in comparison with that. So that is a standard population, which comes to a second example, which is indirect standardization, which is even more biased.
I think
Yes.
at certain data we use a Sager population.
What is Sager?
SE is a population. It may not be 20,000 whatever. Like you say, like NRDO report, they will specify
No, my
this and
point
they
is
can
it-
give.
your- my
Understand,
point is that
understand.
Depends on the standard population
Understand.
Yes.
and where the bunch is.
Right.
Because in this case, it's monotonic.
Yeah.
The left is always higher than
Yeah,
the right.
okay. But I guess the standard population in the way the range is fairly proportional. That means the younger and the older will definitely probably should have a. In this case, I think the standard population, okay, the age range is not evenly distributed, but normally will be the elderly group having fewer weights lah, because they should have died already lah. So it should be like central bar or whatever lah. This
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll find out where you get the standard population. But I think it's just arbitrary lah. If I'm not wrong, they sum up all the EU countries, the OECD countries to get that. Okay, I'll clarify that. Okay, good question. Okay, someone take it now. Yes, yes, please.
100,000.
Why times 100,000? Because epidemiologists don't have to work with a big number. Okay, so you divide it by 100,000. Yeah.
Having said that, I tried before for the
It's the
breast
same actually,
cancer registry. That time we were doing that. I mean, I made some silly mistake here and there. But long and short of it is that when I use the world population 20,000, Singapore population, whatever, fairly okay lah. The results are fairly consistent because what your hypothesis is the kind of things whereby I'm better than this and worse than this age doesn't really come out that strongly lah. Maybe at least for the examples I have.
Okay, to answer the question, I think it's because some of these are talking about rare things like mortality rate. Yeah, therefore, you talk about rare things, you have to use a larger denominator per 100,000. Yeah, otherwise you don't have none, you see. Okay, like if let's say you don't divide by 100,000, then you may have a bigger number, is it? Or small number. Yeah, but this is by what's it called? By convention, we always use per 100,000. Okay, 50 per 100,000 because maybe you only have 0.0005 rates, right? So it's very hard to manipulate. So you use this per 100,000. It's very standard. You can see this number used all the time. Doesn't really affect much. Yeah. Use calculator. Yeah, I can use calculator also, fine. But remember, all these things was in the era before computer calculator. All these things, we from very long we already use this convention. Okay, so finish, right? Any question for standard? It's very easy, right? Okay, so standard one, just calculate your age specific rates. Okay, multiplied by the standard population. The next question is why you don't have age specific rate? Then you come up with indirect standardization. Okay, so when you don't have the age specific rate, okay, let's say you only have one for one population, and then you have another one for reference population. That's how I came up with this thing called standardized mortality ratio. Okay, steps are quite straightforward. You take the age specific rates from standard population which you have, you multiply by the study population. From there, you come up with assume that the study population is the same as standard population. This is your expected number of deaths. So again, can either be more or less. If it's more, then it means that your study population is more riskier or whatever. If it's less, then your study population will be less risky. It's not about mortality or disease. Okay, a bit abstract, but don't worry, I'll show an example. So this helps to do standardizing mortality in a workers cohort that exposed to asbestosis against general population. Because I think it's very simple. You have a cohort of workers exposed to this. If nothing is wrong, by right, the mortality rate should be the same as your general population, right? But if the mortality rate in these workers is higher than the general population, then you can speculate that something could be funny because this is not random, okay? And it's common in occupational health studies. Okay, then we will go through examples slowly. Okay, first one, same example. So, okay, So country A, this is the actual death, not just expected death. So it's 7,202, 19,800, 120,000. This is your expected death, which is the same as observed death. Okay, so this is actually a standard population. Okay, this is your expected death. Okay, using this, okay, you calculate, you found that your country B, the observed death is much higher than the expected death because you use the specific rate multiplied by the population to count this number. Okay, so assume that country B is the same as country A or the standard population. This is the number of deaths that's expected. Okay, assuming that it's the same. Adjusted for age, only age, okay? But you realize that the actual death is much higher. Much higher. Okay, therefore, you come up with this number. Observed death, anyone remember? 15,300. Expected death, can't remember it. It's 9,540. Okay, so this will give you the standardized mortality ratio. So it's either more than 100, which means that the country is higher, or less than 100 means the country is lower. Straightforward, right?
Can you go back again? Sorry.
Go back one time. Okay, one more time. Yeah. Okay, so what happens is that you have age specific rate for country A. Okay, let's say you have age specific of country A. You take the age specific of country A, you just multiply by the population in country B to get this number. So you're just saying that assume that country B has the same mortality as country A. This is your expected number of death. Okay, and finally, then you compare the expected number of death to the actual death. Then you find that it's actually lower, which means that country B has a higher mortality than country A. It's very simple. It's just assume, is it? Yeah.
So you still need one country to have the age specific rate.
Yes. Usually this is a standardized population. So the standard population, you have very good data on the age specific rate. So for example, you got an age specific rate in Singapore, sorry, in the OECD country, right? This is what you have. But you do not know what is the age specific rate in Singapore. Never mind. You have the population structure in Singapore, right? So you take that rate multiplied by population structure in Singapore, you come up with an expected number. You have the actual observed death, then you compare. Then from there, you can see whether Singapore has a higher mortality rate compared to the standard population. Okay? So this is what we usually do for indirect standardization. Okay, so come back again. So this is actually the same because your country A is actually your standard population. But for country B, it's actually higher than the standard population. This is called indirect standardization. Okay, so now I'm still not sure. I summarize everything in a nice little table. Okay, when to use what? Okay, direct is to compare rates by adjusting population structure. So what you have is you have the age in specific rates. You multiply by a different population structure to come out with this. Okay, and this population structure used is a standard population. Indirect standardization is to compare observed death to expected death. So you're coming from the point of view of assume that country A is the same as the standard population. What is your expected death? Then since you have observed death, you compare it to the calculated expected death. Then you can come up with a conclusion either it's higher or lower. When do you use it? When you have age specific rates for all the population, then you use this. When you only have total death and age specific rate for the reference population. Okay. Okay, metrics is called standardized rate per 100,000. This is called standardized mortality ratio, SMR. And you may see this in the literature. So this is something for you to take note. What you need is an age specific rate for study and the reference population. You need it, otherwise you cannot do the adjustment. Here you only need total death. So actually here is simpler. You just need a total death in the study population, and you need the specific rates for the reference population. Common example use compare disease, and this compare workers' death. Because it's not easy to get the death rate of workers in a country, for example, because you don't have it. But you have like MOM, they report total number of deaths. This is the rate that you have. So what you do is to take the general population, if you're interested, and compare if the workers died at the same rate as the general population, is it higher or lower? Okay, so this is for direct comparison. This is to provide a ratio to see whether mortality in the group is higher or lower than expected. Okay. Oh, okay, 20 minutes. Anyone lost? Mary, look deep in thought. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I mean, you have your data. I'll send the slides. So don't worry. You have the
Wait,
slides.
so we use
Yes.
one, we
Mm.
choose one only by like what data we have, right?
As a HSO usually use number one. Direct. You ask Chung Wei, he usually do this. Very seldom you do this. To do this is, for example, let's say you have Tan Tock Seng death or Tan Tock Seng admission for diabetes. Then you assume that Tan Tock Seng follow Khoo Teck Puat, everything is the same. Then you calculate, and then you found that the number is higher than Khoo Teck Puat. Then you say, hey, Tan Tock Seng is higher risk. Okay, this is something that I like to use because it's got indirect. It's very easy to calculate. Yeah. And it's quite easy to see the answer. The other one is very troublesome. Must go and calculate individual age-specific admission rate, utilization rate, and so on. Okay, this is like a shortcut. Okay. Okay, any question? Move on. Okay, then talk about disease burden. I think this is the most important slide. Okay, because remember SHPC, who went for SHPC?
Oh.
Most people, right? If not all. The first thing is, I think Samuel didn't go. Okay, so they talk about 15 million years. Where this 10 years come from is from here. I just realized Singapore life expectancy at birth is 84.9. The healthy life expectancy at birth is 73.9. So somebody just, actually not correct, it's 11.
It's 11 now.
Then what is it, 10? Okay, never mind. So anyway, this is how they come out with the 10.
I think they reserved the last year of suffering.
Maybe. So 10 years is ill health, 1 year is end of life. I don't know. Or it's 11 or 10. Okay, anyway. So this is where it come from. Okay. But good news, if I'm in Singapore, if you're born in Singapore, your healthy life expectancy at birth is one of the highest in the world.
Not born.
Okay. Okay, you'll be quite close to this.
You eat Singapore food.
Okay, so it's not just you don't just look at your life expectancy, you also look at this thing called HALE. Okay, we shall discuss how to come out. Not HALE, it's HALE, H-A-L-E. Okay, so this quantify the impact of disease on population in terms of mortality and morbidity as the disease burden. It helps in resource allocation because on this you can see how do you spend your money, diabetes or cancer. Okay, health planning, your services, what do you need, and also evaluating the impact of public health intervention. Because after all this time, did the disease burden drop? Like the war on diabetes, for example, did the disease burden drop? Okay, the disease burden can drop only by two things. Number one, reduce number of new cases. Right? Number two, reduce disease duration. Right? But if the war on diabetes makes you live longer, then your disease burden increase. Right? Okay. So sometimes when they do war on diabetes, they say, hey, how come the disease burden increase? Actually, the answer is there already. Who need to get a shock, you see? It's the design, you see? So any condition, any intervention that increase your duration, make you live longer, right? Like HIV, for example. That's why the HIV will continue be this, because the people with HIV last time used to get HIV and die. Now with drug treatment, it becomes chronic disease. So your disease burden for HIV, you always, unless they find a way to both reduce new cases as well as reduce the duration. Otherwise, you always have HIV. Okay?
I need to standardize based on age.
Sorry?
You need to standardize.
When by standardize based on age? This is talking about disease burden.
Yeah, but if there are a lot of people that
You mean waiting, right?
You need to put the weightage down.
So you're saying you should weigh those older patients maybe less and then weigh disease burden strongly on the younger. Okay, that's one perspective. Okay, so during COVID, right? So like Trump.
To do a comparison, you need to standardize to the kind of reference population or something.
Possibly. I think this case is referring to waiting. So maybe younger people, if you get disease at a younger age, you wait it longer, a bit more, so that the disease burden is greater. But here it's unweighted, so you just treat the old people and young people exactly. So once you have a disease, whether you get it at a young age or old age, we weigh it the same. Yeah, but your point is quite interesting. Can you use weighting? Yeah, so you can weigh those diseases that affect the young.
Switzerland
Yes.
for 13 years.
Switzerland?
Switzerland.
Okay.
Supposed to 10 years.
Okay, later we show about how to calculate HALE. Okay.
Singapore and Japan about 10.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it's 11, but they just make it 10 easy to remember.
I mean, that's what Eugene said. I don't want to go over the numbers, but I'll just say it's 74, 84 full stop. It's
Okay.
10 times 1.5 million.
Oh.
And he says it's a marketing statement. Don't drill too much into this. Use the name, obviously.
But actually, it's here lah. This is the actual
He said-
source. Okay. Okay.
But it was 84 because of COVID. Because our LE is dropped.
Yeah,
The life expectancy is not 84.9.
it dropped by 1 year. Okay. Okay, so move on. Okay, how do you calculate this healthy life expectancy? Okay, basically it means that if you're born in Singapore, a newborn can expect to live this number of years in full health. Okay, full health. So the way you do it is to start with life expectancy. Okay, and then you reduce the years lived with disease or illness or disability, disability or illness. Okay, and this will reflect both quality as well as quantity of life. Very important. Okay. Okay, because some people may say that a poor quality of life is not worth living. Okay, so this helps to assess overall population health and guides public health policy. Okay, so the difference is that this is the total expected years of life. That's the life expectancy, and here is more for live in good health. Okay, so it allows you to compare health between countries, regions, also track population health, and finally evaluate health intervention and policies. The next slide is on calculation. Okay, so this is the theory. Okay, next we go to calculation. So for example, let's say the average life expectancy is 75. Okay, then you need to estimate the years people live with illness or disability. So very simply, 0 is perfect health, no loss. 1 is either death or full disability. Okay, so for many diseases, you can come out with these weights. Then you calculate the years lived with disability. You multiply the years with the disability weight. For example, if you are living 5 years with diabetes, okay, 5 years of diabetes, and let's say diabetes weighted is 0.2. 0 is perfect health. 1 is full death or full disability. So that's 1 year live in poor health. Then you subtract this from your life expectancy. Of course, there are many diseases, right? I think what they did was they either use all diseases or they use the main diseases. Because those small ones, no point. So we take a top 10, 20 disease burden, disease calculate with the hill. But at least this is the concept. Simple concept, right? But in actual, it's quite difficult because it's very hard to get this weightage, all these things. And different countries, they have different weightage. Yeah, so they may need to do surveys to see. So different countries may have different views on disability. Okay, so this is how you calculate. Very simple. Okay, this is for Hill. Next, DALYs. Any part of DALYs? Oh, never heard of before. Okay. So DALYs is disability adjusted life year. Very similar, right? DALYs to Hill. But it looks at, if you take disability into consideration, what is the effect of the disability on your life years? So the way to do it is two concepts. One is YLL and YLD. YLL is because of your disability or the issues, you lose the number of years because you died, premature death. Okay, this is a YLL. Not only that, there's also YLD. These are the years lived with disability. Okay, so you see it's a bit different, right? The Haley and this. This is, you need to calculate how many years you lost due to diabetes. And you must also calculate how many years you're living with a disability due to diabetes, for example. Okay, so it combines both premature death as well as disability. So example, if a disease causes a person to die 10 years before the expected life expectancy, so you lose 10 years of your life, and you live 5 years with disability, and let's say it's 3, okay, due to the severity, this is 5 times, let's say 0.6, so 0.6 is the weights they use, so therefore the total DALY is 13. You lose 13 years of life because of the disease. 10 is the actual years lost, and 3 is the years lost due to disability. So you're not at 100%. Okay, this is called DALYs. Okay, so next one is, how do you calculate YLL? Okay, a bit simple, simplistic calculation. So this measure premature death, right? So you just take the number of deaths times the life expectancy minus the age at death. If not wrong, I think we did this for smoking. I think it was in SHPC. Okay, go and check Joey's slide. So for each death, you subtract the age at death from the standard life expectancy, and this is your result. So your person died at 50, and the average life expectancy is 80, so it's 30. Okay, and then you sum up all the number of deaths, and the amount of premature death. Only premature death. Oops. Okay, so this is how to calculate YRL. Sounds very simple again, but again, it's very hard to estimate all this. So all this is a lot of estimate. So they do use the global disease burden of disease study, and then you can see what they go and do all the complex calculation, calculate all this. Then the issue is sometimes you may have multiple conditions. How do you adjust for multiple conditions? Okay, so this is how to calculate YRL, at least the simplistic way of thinking.
Why not? It's easy.
Hmm?
It's just the 84 minus when you die.
Yeah. You need to see, because you have many people and your life expectancy is taking, oh yeah, so for the average,
Why not? It's easy.
yeah, okay.
Why not?
Yes, yes.
Sum of all
Yeah.
those.
Yes, please.
But those who, the life expectancy has already included those who died due to so-called premature death. So isn't it a little bit of kind of...
Yes, but you already take it as 84.
Mm.
Then people, one person, you look at the registry of death, 84,000 people died this year. Seen where they died. Those who died after 84, of course, we don't calculate. Those 84 is average, or the people who are living until 90. So you need to take those people who died before 84, then you sum it up.
As a YRL.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, what I meant was the YRL is for, let's say, a disease lah. So you may not have good data on the...
For disease cannot, because it's conditional,
Yeah.
disease specific life expectancy. I said
Yeah.
the population is 84.
Mm.
You got 2%, one who died at
Okay.
74, one who died at 94. 94, I don't care because you already said premature only. So I need to look at 74. 84 minus 74 is 10. It contributes 10 YL.
Okay, what they do is the attribution lah. For example, when you talk about this a disease, right? So let's say a patient got 2 diseases. Then how do you attribute? So that's the difficult part of attribution. The actual calculation, as you mentioned, could be quite simple lah. Just take that. Yeah. Okay, so okay lah, but for attribution it's quite hard lah. That's why they do a whole global burden disease study.
Just take the total.
Yeah, so you look at how they do it lah.
Disease,
Okay,
no.
but you're right. In terms of compare, YLD is even worse. YLD again need the disability weight, and this weight is different for different countries. Yeah, so some people PhD or their whole lives to get these weights.
Yeah.
So survey. This guy called Luonan, just survey to get the weights, and the weights can change. With treatment, weights can change. For example, HIV in the past could be a very high disability, but some people just take it as a chronic disease, just take a medication and okay. So different things have changed. Okay.
Expert input, right? A panel input, right?
Could be a panel input or could be just survey. Yeah, so some things are like even cancer. In the past, cancer was like a death sentence. Now people are living more beyond 5 years in remission. Or diabetes. Sometimes diabetes be a chronic disease. Now some people can even remit, go to reversible.
You're
So
talking
this keep
about
changing.
disability, you're not talking about life
Hmm?
expectancy, right?
Yeah, disability. Notice wait. How disabled are you by the disease?
But just now you talk about remissions and all this thing, you're talking about how long they live, but you are talking about how much they suffer while they are living.
So if you remit, so maybe your suffering is dropped already. So the disease, let's say you lose weight, you don't take medication, then you don't have disability anymore. The disability due to the need to take medication. Some people think taking medication, not being able to be medication free as a disability. But in any case, it's just quite complicated to calculate this lah. So that's why they have a global burden of disease study 2017, 2020. I think there'll be one out soon. Okay, to calculate. You all can Google it. There's Singapore is part of it. Yes, your question? Yes.
If they have multiple conditions,
Yeah.
does it add on?
No, not so
No,
simple,
right.
not so simple lah. You have to do some sort of the conditional. They're not sure how to do it lah.
Normalization.
Yeah. Yeah.
So add up more than your life.
Yeah, I'll help more than 1 year.
So they don't do, they have all this, they've taken into account all
Yes.
this, although I don't know the maths.
The theory is very simple, but
Maybe
if you're interested, go to the global burden of disease to understand the maths behind it. Yeah. Okay, so this is
I have just a question.
yes.
To everyone with you.
Mm.
The YLD and the YLL are not independent.
Okay.
They're not independent. I mean, if you have a chronic condition,
Mm.
you're likely to die something related to that. So when they say go and reduce the YLD, reduce the burden, definitely will increase your life expectancy.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just saying there's a related, the way we add is YLL plus YLD because we take spot measurement.
Mm.
Actually, they're related. So when Eugene say, oh, I'm going to save 15 million life years, you also increase your life expectancy, which is a good thing.
Mm.
I'm saying they are not independent. You're likely to die of something that you're burdened with. So if you remove that, obviously you'll live longer or die of something else.
Okay. So okay, so this is a simplistic way of understanding. For the complex maths, you can read up. Okay, after that we have QALYs, quality adjusted life years. Okay, it's very common for cost effectiveness study. Anyone interested in cost effectiveness study?
Must be our team must.
Huh?
We are expected to do in the future.
Okay, so because I think modeling lah. So two or three experts. I've never seen Chong Wei do this, but they probably can do it. But the two experts I've been doing it is either Sun Yan or Fang Wen. Not sure whether Cheney got do before or not. Maybe he does, but didn't publish lah. But so usually these are the two lah. Cheney, Sun Yan and Fang Wen lah. Fang Wen is a bit new lah to this, but Sun Yan is the expert.
Cost effectiveness. Okay.
Okay, so you need to collect this thing called QALYs. Okay, so again, it's a quality of life score. Okay, so your QALYs is the number of years you live times the quality of life score. Again, 0 is death and 1 is perfect health. Okay, so if a person lives 10 years with a quality of life score of 0.8, the QALYs is 8 QALYs. Okay, so they use this as a way as a currency to compare between intervention. Okay, so they'll say that this intervention costs how much? How much is the QALYs? This intervention costs how much? This how much is QALYs? Then they use a difference. So they take intervention 2 minus intervention 1 to get the difference, and then the cost difference. Then calculate is the QALY per cost. So this is how you do a simplistic way of doing cost effectiveness. If you're interested, I can have one tutorial on cost effectiveness study. Okay, not me, but I have the slides because in my class, somebody is teaching this course. I taught it very badly, but never mind. Okay, so this is quality adjusted life years. Okay, today I have to leave early, so we'll come up with the last part, which is the key takeaway.
But that is the EQ5D, right? We'll use EQ5D instrument.
Yes, there's an instrument called EQ5D. If you're interested, I can show you. So there are 5 questions. So from this, then there's also this thing called the standard gamble. Okay, these things. I remember Lorna teaching. That was 8 years.
Work, right?
Yeah, all this.
Is always on
Yes.
EQ3. Last time was
EQ
3
or 5.
Spend his whole
Yes.
time working on this, presenting the same thing.
Not say same thing, like it's getting all different quality scores for this. Yeah.
The quality and quality sounds quite similar.
Different. Yeah. This one is more of for the impact of the disease. So okay, so Fang Wen tried to publish this. The reviewer say, why didn't you look at QALYs? So it's a bit different. This is like how much you lost. QALY is more of how much you gain or you have. So they're looking at the difference. Yeah.
If I may add, the QALY is at the individual patient level to measure the effect of an intervention. The DALY is at the population level for global burden.
Both are referring to the.
Of course, they're referring to the same concept of the lack of health. But this is used for interventions. You measure the patient directly one at a time using an instrument. DALY is based on the panel experts to assess the population for global comparison.
So QALY is a personalized.
Individual, I ask you, you go for treatment, right? Before and after I will measure you. Now I know the effect of the improvement of QOL, quality of life. Convert to QALYs. It's a measure.
Because the individual estimate of their quality of life could be different, even for the same disease.
When we do cost effectiveness simulation, all these things, QALYs, we don't really interview each one.
That's your simulation.
Simulation, when we do prospectively, go and ask. Just like he said, the two of them do the modeling work for prospective modeling. For the actual one, Michelle, these people do, they run.
They ask questions.
The prospective, right? They will actually go to the patient and not they do, they get the clinicians to run the experiment.
Even they don't do, they look for literature. Literature will say that diabetes, this is the reported QOL from that calculate.
Okay, I mean, then that is adopting some parameters direct.
No, for them, they do live.
Some do live, no data, then no choice.
But normally, for instance, you want to justify we always say the GDP or whatever is the threshold.
That's
which you also use QALY
as a denominator. We never talk dollar over the QALY.
But that is kind of in a way we explicitly or implicitly have certain benchmark of the QALYs already for certain.
What was your question? Your question is whether you measure directly or you use a simulation, is that?
We use some kind of published tables. Like you
When
say,
you do a live
literature,
in Singapore,
literature.
you're supposed to measure the actual patient.
That is Luo Nan's kind of work, is it?
Then because the trial, the clinical trial is only for a short period like diabetes, when you run the program for 1-2 years, we cannot extrapolate for the whole life. That's where the modeling and simulation comes in.
Okay, but
For extrapolation, using some of the program results that they obtain.
It's very
If you got
tedious
nothing, then
lah.
you go look at literature, then that's straightforward.
Like develop program, they only sample about 100, 200 people with the quality. I'm not sure now. They have like 2,000, 3,000 patients, but they only sample about 10%.
Only for 2 years, right, to follow up.
So,
But
so
they
you
ask
have-
for lifetime in the cost effectiveness, so somebody has to extrapolate.
so maybe back to Samuel questions. I mean, DALIs, we say disability. The concept of disability to a person and to qualis, is there any differences?
No, it's quite related.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the DALI is likely to come from an expert panel. That's why Dr. Heng always say, oh, the expert panel comes from overseas. I won't trust them. And you want to use the European weights. Because like what Gary said, our culture different and all that. But the quality comes from a direct measurement of the patient.
Okay, anyway, key takeaway. First thing, remember, importance of standardization. I mean, this is quite obvious, right? You want to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. And then the key things that we usually use is usually age, okay, gender sometimes. Social economic status good to use, but we don't really have the data, so we don't really do that as adjustment. Okay. And then it's important to make value comparison between population over time, for example. So as Singapore go older, okay, so you look at the diabetes, for example, look at diabetes, you found that our crude diabetes rate has increased, which means that you look at the raw number, it's increased. But if you adjust for the age, so if let's say,
Like what was mentioned earlier. Okay, carry on.
So if you adjust for age, for example, so you compare with but if you see the thing is very simple. Your answer, your question, your statement is that assume that Singapore did not age. Assume that Singapore did not age. What it will be the rate of diabetes? And you found that it's actually better than the previous. So we have done our part to bend the curve for the age specific diabetes rate, but not the crude rate, because population get older. Something like what Cheney is doing in his breakdown.
He does it.
Yeah, but ours is a very crude method. Crude, yeah.
Normally for those chronic diseases, normally we should more referring to incidence rate than prevalence. Like you say, prevalence is once you got it, it's always there.
Yeah.
So it's more difficult to say bend the curve or whatever. I mean, you have to bend various incidents.
But I covered last
your
week.
last week.
It's very hard to calculate incidence. Yeah. You did calculate the new cases. Not that easy to capture new cases accurately. Because usually when you do prevalence is through a survey. You do a survey, how many patients, then you speculate this is the prevalence. How do you do incidence of diabetes?
You have to get from registries.
Registry may not be fully complete. That's assuming you have a registry.
Yeah,
and the GP who see the diabetes may not. So unless you have a diabetes registry in the whole of Singapore, the most we can do is for Singapore, for NHG population, the incidence of diabetes. Then another issue is that some patients transfer to NHG, but they were seen previously at polyclinic, at GP. So these are new cases to NHG, but not new incidents. Okay, so that's why you say very simple. We don't even have incidence of diabetes. No study in Singapore has an incidence of diabetes. But if you ask me, it's 0.5%. Okay, you ask me using the formula. So our prevalence was 9% divided by about 18 years. So that's why it's about 0.5%. That's the incidence. You can go and check. It's about incidence about maybe 0.5, 0.4 roughly. But that's the magnitude. So year on year, this is the amount we get. Okay, anyway, so incidence not so easy. Prevalence is easy because it's a survey. Okay, back to this. You have direct standardization. So you use age-specific rates that you have for your population, multiplied by a standard population. Okay, this is one way. Another way is indirect. Okay, so now you have your reference population. Okay, from there, from reference population, you multiply the age-specific rate in the reference population with your own population, because your population breakdown, you know. Your incidence of disease specific rate don't know. Then you calculate if our rates were the same as the reference population, what will be your number? And there you compare your observed number. And that will give you an idea of whether you are more riskier than the standard population or you're less riskier. Okay. So this is direct and indirect standardization. You go for exam, this is a favorite question, so you must know. I don't think anyone's going for exam, so never mind. Okay, so disease burden metrics, years of life loss. Okay, I think we covered this. So simplistically, if someone died at 50, the life expectancy is 80, so a year of life loss is 30 years. This is okay at population level, but for disease, again, it's the argument. How many multiple disease? How do you calculate for this? So not so straightforward. Even for diabetes, we also have, remember, I think you mentioned previously, you found that diabetes patients has longer lifespan. Yeah, so some of these things is survival bias, all these things, not so straightforward to look at it. Or dementia, for example, dementia, you found that people with dementia have longer life expectancy than the normal. Why?
It's a good thing.
Because you live long enough to get.
You must live long, especially advanced dementia. So it's not so straightforward. Then what's a year's life loss due to dementia?
No, it's good. It's above the life expectancy.
Yeah, so some of these things are things to consider lah. Yeah.
But YLD is
Okay.
there.
Yeah, the disability lah. And some of this is very disabling because they can't recognize a family, things like that. Yeah. So some diseases, just think simply, some diseases you die young. Okay. That is something that you really want to prevent. Some diseases you die with disability, and this disability can be very long. Like dementia, some people can live for 5 years, 10 years, which is quite long. Yeah.
Disable the caregivers also.
Yes. Yeah.
You must add that also.
So these are some of the things to
Right.
think of lah.
Indirect cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Must add more than the person.
Okay, then you talk about disability adjusted life years. Okay, I covered this already. So it's just YL by YLD, add up, simplistically add it up to represent overall disease burden. This is by disease. So again, if someone died 10 years earlier and live 5 years of condition, then disability rate of 0.6 is 13. So 10 years loss, 0.6 times 5, so it's 3, so it's 13. Okay, very simple to calculate in here. The actual calculation very, very tedious and complicated because you need to have all these numbers. QALYs, okay, this is used for CA, cost effective analysis. It combines the length as well as quality of life. So you do survey to see what is the quality of life. And then this is simply just multiply this with this to get 8 years. HALE or healthy life expectancy above, this is very important because it's actually what we want to optimize. Remember, we talk about adding years of healthy life, right? So you think about it, actually what you want is to do in a more scientific way is adding years of HALE. Because we want adding years of healthy life. It's not just adding years of life. What NHG motto is adding years of healthy life. So what they're actually talking about is this thing called healthy life expectancy above. Okay, so it's the expected number of years can live in full health, no disability, no disease. You also adjust by accounting for years live with illness or disability. So these are more better measurement or just simply traditional life expectancy. Okay, I shall pause now for some questions.
HSBC says our Singapore life expectancy is not it's only like top 7 or so.
8.
I thought we are higher.
Because of COVID, ours dropped. That's why the first thing I checked
Is it?
was number 8.
I mean, the rest of the countries don't have COVID drop, man.
Somehow Singapore, we are number 8. The last time we were not like 2 or 3.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that, I mean, which I think the speaker made the point is that the infant mortality has a big impact on overall life expectancy because once you die, you're straight minus 70, 80 years old.
Yes.
And probably we did very well in that, right?
Yes.
And therefore we are very good for them. That's an observation.
Okay, so since you're interested, let's find out the life expectancy. So a lot of time, all these things is all surveys lah. So there'll be some fluctuation, I think. Comparison. So we are 7 or 8, is it? Didn't even know that.
8 right here. So ranked 8. They are all off by decimal point.
Yeah, just a little bit only lah. It's a World Fact Book. Oh, you're not seeing it. Why it's not there?
Oh.
Okay. So let's look at Singapore. Number 2, 2024.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So again, depending on which study you look at lah. Yeah. Why Monaco so high? That's very weird. So real or not?
And hang on.
Yeah. So depend on how they survey the thing.
Monaco is a small country.
Singapore is
Europe.
smaller, I think.
Okay, Worldometer.
Monaco is
I don't know.
is smaller.
Yeah, possibly.
100 and a few 100,000.
Oh,
What's this? Tell me this is a problem.
Is
Okay.
bordering.
Yeah. Is this the one? Could be this one?
I
Worldometer.
think this one, number 8.
Okay lah. So they use worldometer, but number looks a bit weird lah.
It's Hong
Why,
Kong.
ah?
Okay.
85.
Okay. This is from the I think it's from here lah. So it depends on which survey you look at lah. Okay. Yeah, because this number very different from the other one mah. The other one much higher.
Use this
Yeah,
one.
never
I
mind.
know.
Never mind lah.
Worldometer is better.
Better
right?
like that.
Oh, quite high.
Okay lah. So okay, so this is the number lah. Just know that this is the, but this is life expectancy, not Hill. Haley, H-A-L-E. Remember now that after today, you should know
Lifespan.
that you're interested in not
Male and
just
Female, what's the difference for Singapore?
huh?
Male and female for Singapore.
Yeah, so this is the reason
86
why
5 years only.
cashew is more expensive for females. You didn't know? Cashew, you female pay more. Okay, that was cashew. Not eldershoe. No more eldershoe already. Friend, no more eldershoe already.
Old time called eldershoe.
Yes, now it's cashew. So cashew premiums, female pay more. That was the thing we did the last time. Yeah, so yeah, logic is that because women live longer, they have a higher chance of being disabled. But the other logic is because women live longer, women pay more premium.
Yeah.
So it depends on which side you look at it lah. Okay, so these are some of the things to look at. Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much.
What's next?
Next class. Yeah, sorry.
We have 10 years of healthy life, then how to say? But if the life expectancy don't increase by that much, it increase less. Sure.
What's your point?
Then we'll be like top of the world maybe.
No, we want to live and drop dead lah. That's what it means.
Okay.
No burdens, I need that.
Isn't that a
Not
It's a compression of mobility lah, theoretical concept.
does it sound possible?
yeah, that is not possible that you are very well dressed. How can you suddenly die?
Very good. Such a conundrum that I can't.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So next week, if you're interested, next week will be on this. Week 4, concept of risk. Okay, so I'll use my favorite term. It's called 危机 for those Chinese. It means there's opportunity and there is danger. There's risk. Okay, anyway, relative risk, odds ratio, rate ratios, all these things you'll need to know. Attributable risk, PAR, population attribution risk. This one I need to revise back. Association versus causation, most people know lah. Most of your studies are all associative studies. Okay, what are the criteria for causal inferences? And finally, you have this Hughes criteria for causality. Can anyone tell me the Hughes criteria? Okay, for number 1, the association must be strong. If it's a weak association, most likely it's not. So smoking, do you ever know what's the association? With lung cancer? Okay, quite close. It's 19. That's why they found that, yeah, I think most likely, because it's really very high. So something that has very strong association, your chance for causality is higher, but not guaranteed lah. Okay, so this on we'll cover this more lah.
Precedence is number 1, right?
Huh?
Precedence must happen.
Yeah,
before.
this must happen before. That's why you do a lot of this cohort study, right? I always do this study. This group of people don't have the disease. Then I fold them up. Some of them are smokers, for example. They found they got lung cancer. Okay, it cannot be they have lung cancer first, then they smoke. Then obviously it cannot be the smoking cause lung cancer because they already got lung cancer before they smoke. Okay, so you're right. So the first step is who came first. Then the other criteria will cover. Can't remember offhand also. But okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.